This market is a masterclass in psychological warfare. Everybody is interested in crypto when prices are high, when valuations are stretched. Nobody looks at crypto when prices are low. Now, currently prices are low. So does it potentially make sense to buy this dip? In this video, we're going to look at the social metrics. We're trying to figure out how much the tension and prices are correlated and whether or not this is the right time to get in. Now have a look at this. This is the number of new subscribers per month of this channel here. There's clearly something cyclical going on. During some phases, there are more than 10,000 new subscribers per month. During other phases, like right now, there's only 1/10 of that, 1,000 new subscribers. Now what's interesting is that the number of new subscribers shows pretty much the growth of the ecosystem. It does not necessarily show how much attention there currently is. Because have a look at this. Here we've got the monthly views, again, of this channel. That's fluctuating much less than the number of new subscribers. The number of views went pretty much flat over the last 2 years roughly, since the beginning of 2024. But let's have a look at those two spikes. So we've got March of 2024, we've got January of 2025. That's when this channel in particular expanded quite a bit in the number of subscribers. And here are those 2 points in time on the price chart in Bitcoin. So after Bitcoin has already rallied quite a bit, that's when most people get interested. And that might, at least short term, not be the best time. We've seen the same again after a price rally, and then things tended to rather come down. But again, the views tend to be somewhat stable over time. And that's why I want to compare this to other channels. What kind of crypto channels actually expanded? What kind of crypto channels continue to contract? Let's have that comparison. And maybe we can draw some interesting conclusions from this. Here is Altcoin Daily. It's one of the largest channels on YouTube. It's got 1.7 million subscribers. And here are the number of views over time. Since 2024, this rather trended down from 5.4 million views per month to now 2.7 million. So roughly a 50% drop. Here's Crypto Banter, very similar in the type of content that's being published. So a lot of altcoin projects that are being discussed. And here is the view development. It went from 3.4 million views per month to now 1.1 million. So that's a drop of more than 66%, of more than 2/3. So those are altcoin related channels. Now there's also Coin Bureau. They've got 2.7 million. And their content is a bit more technical, as in the channel doesn't just discuss price developments, it also discusses technological progress, technological changes, etc. And this here is the number of views. That went from 3.8 million down to 1.3 million. So it seems like all of the altcoin related channels, no matter if it's just hype around price development or if it's fundamental research around the project, all of those channels have lost massively. At least they have lost more views than this channel over here, right? This channel was relatively stable. Here is Virtual Bacon, a more analytical channel, a channel that I personally like quite a bit, but the development is very similar. We went from around 2 million views to now 300,000 views. And then the higher we go up the risk curve, the more it's about meme coins, the more it's about potentially pump and dumps. We see a stronger contraction in viewership. 574,000 views to now 116,000 views. Now I think those numbers make complete sense, because especially if you are dealing with altcoins and the very risky ones, you might have lost all your capital and you're simply just exiting the market. You're not really interested anymore in what's happening with crypto. You have moved on, you're now investing in stocks, you're now investing in precious metals. You're not really interested in what's going to happen with the next meme coin. So the meme coin channels getting wrecked the most during this bear market makes a lot of sense. What I don't like though is that the smart people that built the ecosystem are also now exiting. This here is Deb University. This is a channel that's focusing on programming in the ecosystem, how to do Web3 applications, how to build the next infrastructure. The views have peaked at 724,000 in a month. Let's take the same data points again. January of 2024, from 590,000 views to only 10% of that. So it doesn't look like people are interested in becoming blockchain developers anymore. It seems like all of the hype has now moved towards AI development. Everybody that wants to be at the cutting edge of technology is moving to AI. And that's of course also a problem for crypto. How can crypto progress further? How can it attract more attention if now AI is outcompeting in terms of new talent? If you want to make money in tech, you're learning about artificial intelligence and not about blockchain development. Now, some channels are doing quite well. Benjamin Coin, for example, by Into the Cryptoverse. He is one of the very few crypto channels that has been able to grow the number of views over time. And I believe that's because he doesn't try to sell you anything, right? He's not getting any money from any crypto projects. He simply just looks at the market, and whenever prices are heated, he will simply tell how it is. He might not always be right, but at least the viewers of Ben Cohen did better than all of the people that bought altcoins and followed those other channels that now lost everything. That's the fundamental problem. Have a look at how often Bitcoin gets searched over time. That peaked in December of 2017. So that's now more than 8 years ago. There were a few spikes every now and then, and maybe some people are now buying the dip. There is a bit more attention potentially for this month. But really, it's very cyclical, and it's very unclear whether or not future rallies will still be strong enough to induce enough excitement for the altcoins. Here's the number of search queries for crypto. It peaked in May of 2021, and since then, so for the last 5 years roughly, has not seen new highs. Have a look at the number of active addresses on the Bitcoin network. That peaked at the end of 2017. Here's the number of active addresses on Ethereum. Right in the first years, there was nothing but growth. Then came the bear market, then a recovery. But really, in the last years, no real growth. And so that's the fundamental problem. If there are no new people entering the space, then all of the growth in terms of price has to come from the existing players, either by simply deploying more capital, or alternatively by increasing leverage, by adding more credit to the system. But the issue is, the more credit gets deployed, the more severe a potential bear market could become. Have a look at this chart here. This is the Bitcoin price relative to the Nasdaq 100. So we've got two risk-on assets. We can clearly see how from cycle to cycle, the outperformance of Bitcoin tends to decline. We might potentially see no outperformance at all going forward. We might see a long-term underperformance of Bitcoin relative to technology stocks. Now at the top, we've got the Nasdaq 100 relative to the US money supply. At the bottom, we've got the Bitcoin price. And unfortunately, we have never really seen how Bitcoin reacts during a real crisis. This year, that's the global financial crisis. This year, that's the dot-com crisis. If there was another crisis, and I don't dare to predict what that crisis might be, then really we do not know how Bitcoin will react. And because of that uncertainty, I think it's best to rather be too cautious than to be too optimistic. I think it makes sense to wait until the market is again in net unrealized losses. That's where we tended to bottom out in prior bear markets. We are still in net unrealized profit, not yet in losses. The average cost basis of the market is at $55,000, so still some way to go down. If you just look at the long-term holders, here the bottom is at $40,000. And again, in prior bear markets, we tended to fall even below that. Sometimes only very briefly, right? For example, here during COVID, but during regular bear markets that take a year to develop, we can stay below that cost basis for several weeks. So why be so risk on? Why invest everything in Bitcoin if this is the potential risk? Really, we do not know how Bitcoin will react in case traditional finance also sells off. And if we do not see that sell off, still 40K in Bitcoin is very much a realistic scenario. We all want to avoid pain. We all don't want to look at a portfolio that looks like this. This is the listed tokens on Binance. And I'm seeing those comments and I'm getting those messages every now and then, right? Why have I been too greedy? Why didn't I sell at the top? Why did I hold all of those altcoins? And now there is a 60, 70, 80% loss. I hear you. Many people have been starting this way. Many people have been going through a bear market, have not taken profit early enough, now cannot recover anymore from the loss. It appears as if research doesn't even matter. You read the white paper of Ripple XRP. You read the white paper of Solana. You are doing your research for the TON network, a lot of technical mumbo jumbo. And yet it seems like it doesn't matter. Everything is down at the same time. And Bitcoin dominance goes up. Bitcoin as a fraction of all of crypto increases. Why do all of that research when it's just all about Bitcoin? Bitcoin gets purchased through the ETFs. Bitcoin also gets purchased through the treasury companies. So Bitcoin can outperform the rest because all of those smaller altcoins do not have those tailwinds, do not have this constant demand. What we see over here, that's the altcoin market relative to Bitcoin. So the technical term is total 3ES relative to Bitcoin. This goes up in very short periods. This year is an altcoin season, 400% outperformance versus Bitcoin. When does that happen? It tends to happen after Bitcoin has already rallied quite a bit. We have seen a 7-8x outperformance of Bitcoin, and subsequently the altcoins outperformed. So the altcoins are just another lever to expose a portfolio to more risk. And that's the issue, right? We do not want to hold altcoins in any other scenario. If we have crashed in Bitcoin, if we have crashed in everything else, and then we come out of the bear market and we've already had our multiple X returns on Bitcoin from the bear market bottom, at that point, it might make sense to buy the altcoins. Before that, I think it's very likely the altcoins will continue to underperform. I very much think that we will continue to see this long-term trend prevailing. 2026 will not be a great year for the altcoins. If the bottom at the beginning of 2021 is any indication, the altcoins could potentially underperform Bitcoin by another 40%. Now, we've been betting on that trend for quite a while. This here is the premium capital pool. So we are betting on falling altcoin prices at the same time, rising prices of Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana. And while Bitcoin in 2025, during that trading period, it was only 5 months roughly, fell quite a bit by 25%, that trading capital pool appreciated. Here are the numbers in more detail. Feel free to stop this video to have a look. But the average premium member after cost made 12% over the course of 5 months annualized. That's 40%. $2,400 profit on average. And so I'm sharing my trades. What kind of altcoins are the worst? And I bet on falling prices. For example, this year, right? This is just recently a Gala short. Gala subsequently crashed. And when we bet on falling prices of a token, we can make money from this market structure. So we simply just invert this chart. Everything that's red becomes green. Everything that's green becomes red. Have a look at this. This is Bitcoin's price development relative to Gala. So this is now simulating. If we bet on rising Bitcoin prices and on falling Gala prices, that's a kind of performance we can get. So instead of trying to figure the 1 or 2 or 3 altcoins that still might make money during a bear market like this, why don't we just bet on the general trend? Some altcoins are simply so bad, just makes sense to bet on their collapse. And it's actually not just some altcoins, it's pretty much most of them. The odds are in our favor betting on falling altcoin prices. And I do not think that this will change anytime soon, because again, altcoin season only tends to happen after Bitcoin has already rallied. The reason for all of that underperformance is token dilution. It's new tokens hitting the market every single week. On average, the altcoin market has additional selling pressure of $1 billion per week. And there's no demand for those altcoins, right? There's no net purchases of 1 billion every week. And that's why the altcoins do that poorly. It's simply the insiders, the early investors that dump on the retail investors. That's why the performance is so poor. So if you're interested in getting my trades, or if you're even interested in joining the automated copy trading, so this is where all of my trades get directly mirrored, then feel free to check out the premium membership. It's currently $125 per month. Or if you want to enter the automated copy trading, you need to get on the yearly plan, which also saves $250. But again, I do think this is money well invested. I try to make more returns for the average member than what the product costs. So in other words, it's not about the price, it's about the gap between value and price. And if the value is high enough, then I think the price is justified. So feel free to check it out. If you're not satisfied, there's also a 100% money back guarantee for the first week. So just message me within the first week and I will send the money back. Really, there is no risk for you. Thanks again for watching. If it's your very first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish this regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube or see you on Premium. Cheers.